He wasn't supposed to be in that hallway. The CEO had walked out of his office simply to clear his mind after a long meeting, planning to take a quiet shortcut to the break room. But sometimes life places you exactly where you need to be, even if you don't know why yet. The corridor was usually silent at this hour, empty, washed in soft morning light. That's why the tiny, trembling voice behind him felt so out of place, almost unreal at first. "Sir, excuse me, my mommy is sick, but she still works." He froze. There was something in that small whisper that tugged at him instantly. Fear, innocence, responsibility all pressed into one fragile sentence. Slowly, he turned around. A little girl, maybe 6 at most, stood near the wall, half hidden as if she wasn't sure whether she was allowed to exist in such an important place. Her hair was tied into uneven pigtails, one ribbon slipping loose. She clutched a small pink lunchbox to her chest like it was the only safe thing she had in the world. Her eyes were big enough to show how much she understood about life already, more than any child her age should have to. The CEO took a quiet step toward her, careful not to frighten her. "Hi," he said gently, lowering his voice as if speaking to a delicate bird. "Are you looking for someone?" The girl nodded quickly, her shoulders tightening. "My mommy. She didn't eat. She's sick, she's really sick, but she said she has to come anyway." She looked down, as if she was repeating a sentence she had heard many times before. He felt something shift inside him, something heavier than concern, something deeper. A quiet realization that this wasn't just a child wandering into the wrong office. This was a message he was not supposed to ignore. "Who is your mommy?" he asked softly. When she said the name, something inside him jolted. He knew that name. A woman who sat near the end of the large operations department. Quiet. Efficient. Never late. Never loud. Someone who blended into the background so well, he often had to remind himself that people like her were the reason companies stayed standing. The kind of employee who didn't seek attention, praise, or recognition. She simply did her work, always. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she whispered, gripping the lunchbox tighter. "And you came here all by yourself?" She nodded again. "I walked. It wasn't far. Mommy said she forgot her lunch and medicine, but she can't leave her desk. She said she can't miss work again." Her voice cracked on the last word, revealing an entire world of worry a child shouldn't be carrying. He crouched down to her level. "You're very brave, Lily." She blinked a few times, like she wasn't used to hearing those words directed at her. "I just don't want her to get worse," she whispered. She didn't sleep. She coughed all night. Then she looked up with a scared, pleading expression. Can you give this to her? Please. She'll be mad if she sees me here. She said if she gets in trouble, we won't have." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. He understood exactly what she meant. He took the lunchbox gently from her small hands. "I'll make sure she gets it," he promised. But before he could guide her toward the reception area, her tiny hand reached out and touched his sleeve, hesitant, trembling, but brave. "Please, don't tell her I came," she whispered. "She'll get scared to lose her job. She'll think she did something wrong." That sentence hit him harder than he expected. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the fear behind them, the kind of fear that forms after life pushes someone for too long, without mercy, without pause. He took a slow breath. "I won't tell her," he said calmly. "You have my word." Only then did she relax a little, her shoulders lowering just enough to show she trusted him. He guided her to the reception desk, speaking softly to the receptionist to keep her comfortable. Lily sat down carefully on the chair, her feet dangling far above the floor, swinging nervously. He watched her for a second. Something about the way she sat, small, quiet, hopeful, shifted something inside him that he didn't even know needed shifting. He had built his career on decisions, logic, numbers, efficiency. But watching Lily hug her knees, glancing nervously down the hallway as if checking whether her mother might appear at any moment, he realized that leadership wasn't always about running a business. Sometimes it was about noticing the things most people overlooked. As he walked back toward the office area, carrying the lunchbox like it contained something precious, he replayed every detail of the last few minutes. The tired tone in Lily's voice. The way she tried to be strong for her mother. The way her mother had probably tried to hide her illness for months, quietly pushing forward, not wanting to be a burden, not wanting to fall behind. He didn't feel anger. He didn't feel frustration. He simply felt a deep, quiet responsibility. A responsibility he didn't know he had until that morning. Before returning to her department, he paused near the large glass window overlooking the city. The world outside was moving fast, cars rushing, people hurrying, buildings towering over everything, and yet inside him, everything slowed. Every thought aligned. Every impulse became clear. He needed to see her. Not as a CEO. Not as a boss. But as a human being. He tightened his grip on the lunchbox and continued walking, his steps steady and purposeful. He passed through the operations floor, the steady hum of keyboards and quiet conversations surrounding him. No one looked up. They rarely did when he visited. But he wasn't here for attention. He approached her desk slowly. She had her head down, typing, her shoulders tense, her face pale. A soft cough shook her frame, but she tried to hide it behind her sleeve. She didn't even notice him standing there. And that alone, her trying so hard to work through pain, told him everything he needed to know. He placed the lunchbox gently on her desk. Her hands froze on the keyboard. She looked up. And that was where part one truly ended. Right at the moment her eyes widened, the moment everything she had tried to hide was about to come to light. A moment when nothing bad had happened, but everything was about to change. For a moment, she didn't move at all. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, frozen mid-sentence, as if her entire world had paused on the spot. Then her eyes lifted, slowly, hesitantly, and met the lunchbox he had placed on her desk. A soft gasp escaped her, not loud, but full of recognition and fear. She pressed her lips together, trying to hide how shaken she was, how much she already knew without him saying a single word. "My daughter, she came here, didn't she?" she whispered, her voice almost too weak to hear. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he pulled the empty visitor chair closer and sat down gently, not as a CEO, not as a man of authority, but as someone who understood that she had carried far too much alone. Her eyes flickered with worry, but he didn't let the silence feel heavy. He leaned forward slightly, speaking with steady calmness. "She brought you your lunch," he said. "And she wanted to make sure you ate today." The woman's breath shivered out of her chest. She touched the lunchbox with trembling fingers, as if afraid it might disappear. "I told her not to come," she whispered, tears rising but not falling. I didn't want anyone to see." "You didn't do anything wrong," he said immediately. She swallowed hard, her eyes darting around as if checking whether anyone else was watching. "I know I look a bit unwell," she admitted softly. "But I'm okay. I can manage. I don't want to cause trouble. I just need to keep working." He watched her carefully. She wasn't dramatic, wasn't trying to make anyone feel sorry for her. She was simply tired in a way that went deeper than illness. Tired from pushing through days she should have been resting. Tired from choosing survival over comfort. Tired from being strong for too long. He rested his hands on the desk, palms open, voice steady. "Listen carefully. You're going home today. With full pay. And you're going to take care of yourself." Her eyes widened as if he had just said something unbelievable. "What? No, sir, I can't. I already missed last week. And the week before You're going home," he repeated softly, but firmly. "Not because you're in trouble, but because you deserve to rest. And because your daughter needs you healthy." Those words touched something inside her. Something fragile. Something she had hidden for months. Her mouth opened as if to argue, but no words came out. Instead, a quiet tear slid down her cheek, unexpected, unplanned, impossible to hold back. She turned her face slightly away, wiping it quickly, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she whispered automatically. "For what?" he asked. "For crying. For being weak." He shook his head. "You're not weak. You've been handling everything alone for too long. That's not weakness. That's strength." For the first time, she truly looked at him, really looked. Her gaze softened, no longer defensive, no longer trying to hide. Just human. She took a slow breath, one that seemed to release months of heaviness. "You don't understand," she said quietly. "There's medicine I need. It's expensive. And rent, and school fees. And I didn't want to lose this job. I thought if I kept pushing." "You don't have to explain," he interrupted gently. "You're valued here. More than you realize." Her lips parted slightly, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. She blinked several times, trying to gather herself, trying to believe that compassion like this could still exist in a world where she had learned to brace for the worst. He stood up slowly. I've already informed HR, he continued. They'll help you with medical support. And transportation will be arranged to take you and Lily home safely. The moment he said Lily's name, her expression shifted completely. A warmth flickered in her eyes, a mother's instinct, a mother's love, mixed with relief she was too exhausted to hide. She pressed her hands together, as if holding on to something tender. Is she okay? She asked softly. She's waiting downstairs, he reassured. A bit nervous, but safe. A quiet, overwhelmed exhale left her, the kind that comes after fear loosens its grip. He didn't want her to worry any longer, so he gently helped her collect her things. She moved slowly, not because she didn't want to leave, but because her body had been running on empty for too long. She stood, slightly unsteady at first, and he waited patiently, offering his arm without making her feel small. As they walked back through the office, something subtle happened. People glanced up, not with judgment, not with gossip, but with a soft recognition. They saw their CEO walking beside someone who had always blended into the background. They saw empathy instead of authority. And that created a shift, quiet, but meaningful. When they reached the lobby, Lily jumped up from the chair the moment she saw her mother. Mommy. The woman knelt down quickly, embracing her daughter tightly, burying her face in Lily's hair. This time she didn't hide her tears. She didn't apologize for them. She just held her child, letting the warmth melt the fear she had carried alone. Lily touched her mother's cheek. You're not in trouble? She asked, her voice small, hopeful. No, the woman whispered, hugging her again. We are okay. The CEO stepped back a little, giving them space. Watching them felt like watching sunlight slowly return to a house that had been dark for too long. And in that simple moment, a mother holding her daughter, relief softening both their faces, he felt something shift in himself as well. He realized that this moment mattered far more than any meeting he had scheduled, any deal waiting on his desk, any number on a quarterly report. This, quiet kindness, noticing, stepping in, was a different kind of success. A success that wasn't measured in wealth, but in impact. A success that didn't appear in charts, but in changed lives. When they finally stood up, the woman looked at him with gratitude she couldn't put into words. But she didn't need to. He understood. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded gently. Take your time to heal. And don't worry about work. We'll manage. He watched them walk toward the waiting car, hand in hand, two silhouettes moving with a softness the morning hadn't had before. The doors closed, and the car pulled away slowly, disappearing down the quiet street. As the CEO turned back toward the building, he felt a calm clarity settle in his chest. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of better care, better awareness, better support for people like her. For employees who had spent years giving everything and asking for nothing. And for him, it was the beginning of leading not just a company, but a place where humanity mattered just as much as success. He stepped back inside with a quiet smile, knowing without doubt. Sometimes the greatest changes begin with the softest voices. And sometimes the smallest whisper from a child can awaken the heart of a leader.